You are not matter. You are music. Forget everything they taught you in school for a moment. They told you the world is constructed of solids, liquids, and gases. They told you your body is a biological machine of flesh and bone. That is a half-truth at best. If we took a quantum microscope and looked inside your hand, what would we actually observe? Cells. And inside the cells, molecules. And inside the molecules, atoms. And inside the atoms, this is where reality shatters. Inside atoms, there are no solid things. There is 99.99999% empty space. And in that vacuum, there are tiny packets of energy appearing and vanishing, vibrating, oscillating. In the final analysis, there is no matter. There is only rhythm. There is only a dance of energy. As Einstein observed, what we have called matter is energy whose vibration has been so lowered as to be perceptible to the senses. You are a symphony. Literally, you are a collection of frequencies resonating in space-time. If your life feels out of harmony, if you are unwell, struggling financially, or deeply unhappy, it is not because of bad luck. It is because you are emitting a dissonance. Your instrument is out of tune. In previous works, we learned how to think and how to act. Now we are going to learn how to tune, because the universe does not speak English or any other human language. The universe does not respond to what you say or even to what you do. The universe responds to what you vibrate. The law of vibration is the primary law. Attraction is only its secondary effect. If you learn to modify your base frequency, reality reorganizes itself without struggle, like iron filings obeying a magnet. We are going to explore the 10 forgotten laws of spiritual physics together. Law 1. The scale of consciousness. The Hawkins map and your calibration. Picture yourself dropped into the center of a dense, dark, and dangerous jungle. You are hungry. You are cold. You hear the sounds of predators circling. Your destination is a golden city, a place of safety and abundance that you know exists somewhere beyond the trees. But there is a problem. You have no map and no compass. You walk in circles. You stumble. You fall into swamps. You cry out for help. But only the echo of your own desperation answers you. This is the precise situation in which 90% of humanity lives. People wander through existence seeking happiness, wealth, and love, yet they do not know where they stand energetically. They do not know in which direction to move to find what they are searching for. They exert effort. They push harder, they manipulate circumstances without understanding that they are running north when their destination lies in the south. To master the law of vibration, the very first thing you require is a GPS. You need to understand that the invisible universe of energy is not random chaos. It possesses a structure. It has a hierarchy. It operates according to precise mathematical laws. For centuries, mystics spoke of elevated states and diminished states. But everything remained vague and unverifiable, until Dr. David Hawkins arrived. This psychiatrist, mystic, and scientist dedicated his life to a monumental undertaking: calibrating the entire human experience. Using kinesiology, the science of muscle response to truth or falsehood, Hawkins created the map of consciousness. He discovered that every emotion, every thought, and every state of being carries a measurable vibratory frequency, arranged on a logarithmic scale from 1 to 1,000. Understanding this scale is not merely an intellectual exercise. It is a matter of spiritual survival. Your position on this scale determines everything: how much prosperity you generate, how rapidly you age, what physical conditions you develop, and how the world responds to you. The mathematics of this scale are essential to grasp before examining the levels themselves. The Hawkins scale spans from 1 to 0.1000, but it is not arithmetic, where 200 would be double 100. It is logarithmic. This means each point of increase represents an enormous leap in energy. Level 300 is not double the energy of 150. The difference is astronomical. This matters profoundly because it means that even a modest increase in your level of consciousness generates a massive transformation in your external reality. A single individual vibrating at the frequency of love, level 500, counteracts the negativity of 750,000 people vibrating at the frequency of fear. You are far more powerful than you currently believe. The great division on this map occurs at the pivotal number 200. Below 200, force. This is the realm of animal survival, ego, and suffering. Here, life is an uphill battle. You push to obtain anything. Energy is depleted. You wear down. You fall ill. This is the state of the victim. Above 200, power. This is the domain of human and divine creation. Here, life moves with you rather than against you. You stop pushing and begin attracting. Energy regenerates. You heal. This is the state of the Creator. Let us examine where humanity tends to reside so you can locate yourself honestly. Be ruthless with yourself here. The truth will set you free, though it may be uncomfortable first. At the lowest levels, from 20 to 175, if your predominant vibration lives here, the law of attraction will deliver pain, scarcity, and conflict, regardless of how diligently you visualize. Shame calibrates at 20. This is the lowest level compatible with life, the desire to become invisible, to disappear. It is pure humiliation. People here are prone to self-destruction. It is the vibration of non-existence. Guilt calibrates at 30, the favorite instrument of religious and social manipulation. The universe, which is perfectly obedient, delivers punishments in accordance with guilt. Accidents, financial losses, physical illness. If you find that difficult circumstances follow you persistently, examine whether you unconsciously believe you deserve them. Apathy sits at 50, the state of I cannot. It is complete hopelessness, the vibration of those who have surrendered to life's weight entirely. Grief calibrates at 75. Sadness, loss, and discouragement. You perceive the world as a cemetery where everything ends. Fear sits at 100, and this is where the vast majority of the global population resides today. The world appears dangerous, hostile, threatening. Advertising and news are strategically engineered to anchor people at this level because a frightened person is manageable and compliant. At this level, your energetic field contracts entirely. Desire calibrates at 125. Many teachers of attraction tell you to desire intensely, but desire on this scale is actually low. Because desire implies scarcity, you only desire what you do not possess. Anger sits at 150, destructive but at least energized. Pride calibrates at 175. This is the most deceptive level. Society applauds pride, but pride is fragile. It depends entirely on external conditions, and when those conditions shift, pride collapses back into shame. The great threshold is courage at 200. This is where everything transforms. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the capacity to act in spite of fear. At 200, you begin assuming radical responsibility. You stop directing blame outward and begin working on yourself. You give back to the world as much energy as you take. Above 200, the law of vibration begins operating for you rather than against you. Synchronicities emerge, manifestation accelerates. Neutrality at 250 brings liberation and genuine detachment. Willingness at 310 produces proactive optimism. You become competent, useful, magnetic. Acceptance at 350 brings the recognition that you are the architect of your experience. Nothing happens to you. Everything happens for you. Reason at 400 is the level of science and logic. Brilliant, but a golden trap, because the intellect divides to understand, while the heart unites to experience. Love at 500 is not what films taught you. It is a state of being, unconditional goodwill toward all that lives. At this level, your mere presence carries healing properties. According to Hawkins, a single person vibrating at 500 counteracts the negativity of 750,000 people at lower levels. Joy and peace at 540 to 600 represent the states of advanced healers and great teachers. Now, how does this apply to your daily life? The law of vibration governs your perception entirely. Picture each level of consciousness as a differently colored lens. The person in fear at 100 looks at a stranger and thinks he is going to take something from me. The person in desire at 125 looks at the same stranger and calculates what advantage can be extracted. The person in love at 500 looks at the same stranger and thinks, what a remarkable human being. How can I be of service? It is the same street. It is the same stranger, but they inhabit three entirely different universes. This is why it is futile to attempt changing your external circumstances without first shifting your internal calibration. If you acquire a financial windfall, but still calibrate in fear, you will either lose it or live in constant terror of losing it. Your external reality will always compress to match your internal frequency. To ascend this scale, you cannot leap from fear to love in a single bound. That is a spiritual short circuit. You climb step by step. Begin with radical honesty. Admit precisely where you are without judgment. The act of admitting, "I am afraid, I am at 100, automatically elevates you toward courage at 200 and acceptance at 350. Denial holds you in place. Truth elevates. Next, cease feeding the low-frequency beast. Everything you consume carries a calibration. Horror content, sensationalist news, chaotic music, all calibrate low. Classical compositions, inspiring works, time in nature, genuine laughter, these calibrate high. You cannot vibrate elevated while consuming energetic debris. The fastest path out of the ego, which always calibrates low, is to direct your focus towards service to others. Ask yourself daily, how can I be genuinely useful today? Service calibrates in love. When you are actively helping another person, you cannot simultaneously inhabit fear. And finally, forgiveness. Resentment is an anchor that chains you to anger at 150. As long as hatred persists toward anyone, you remain their energetic captive. Forgiveness is the instrument that severs that chain and permits you to rise. Your calibration is not a private matter. You are a broadcasting antenna. If you vibrate in fear, you are contributing to the density of the collective field around you. If you vibrate in love and reason, you are cleansing the atmosphere. Hawkins discovered that humanity collectively calibrates just above 200, approximately 207. We exist on the edge. What keeps the world from complete collapse are those individuals who vibrate high and serve as counterweights to the mass of accumulated negativity. You have been called to be one of those counterweights. Studying these laws is not about acquiring things. It is about becoming a pillar of light. And paradoxically, when you release the grasping and focus instead on being that light, everything you could desire, prosperity, love, vitality, moves toward you, because light is irresistible. Law 2. The cymatics of sound. How your words reshape your DNA and restructure matter. In every great ancient tradition, the origin of creation is sonic. The biblical Genesis does not begin with light. It begins with the word, the logos, the sound. The Hindu Vedas speak of the primordial Om, the foundational vibration that maintains the architecture of the cosmos. Australian Aboriginal tradition holds that the world was sung into existence. Modern physics, through the Big Bang theory, confirms that the universe did not begin with a silent flash, but with an expansive wave, a pressure of sound that organized matter. Welcome to the law of cymatics, the law of sonic creation and order. This law establishes a truth that may feel uncomfortable if you are not yet prepared to assume your full responsibility. Sound is not merely a means of communication. Sound is a means of creation. Your voice is not simply air moving through vocal cords to transfer information. It is an instrument of engineering that releases power. Your voice emits pressure waves capable of reorganizing the molecular structure of physical reality. Most individuals use their words carelessly, as though they were disposable wrappers. They say, "I am exhausted. I am terrible at this. This situation is a disaster." They do not grasp that they are issuing legislative decrees to their own cells. They are issuing commands to the quantum field. Swiss scientist Dr. Hans Jenny coined the term cymatics in the 1960s. He used metal plates sprinkled with fine sand connected to a frequency oscillator that made the plates vibrate with different sounds. When the plate was silent, the sand lay in a chaotic, random pile. The moment a sound was emitted, everything changed. The sand animated and organized itself instantaneously, forming perfect geometric patterns, complex mandalas, hexagons, spirals. As the frequency increased in complexity, the sand formed patterns of breathtaking mathematical beauty identical to those found in nature: the shell of a turtle, the petals of a sunflower, the architecture of a snowflake. When the sound ceased, the sand returned to then chaos. Jenny's conclusion was irrefutable. Sound is the invisible scaffolding that sustains matter. Matter does not organize itself. Matter is inert sand taking whatever shape the vibration passing through it dictates. Now apply this directly to yourself. Your body is the metal plate. Your cells are the sand. And what is the oscillator emitting sound 24 hours per day? Your voice and your internal dialogue. Every time you speak, you emit a frequency wave that travels through your entire body, which is 70% water, a perfect conductor of sound, and organizes your cells into patterns of health or patterns of disorder. You are not merely speaking, you are structuring yourself. A team of Russian researchers led by biophysicist Pyotr Garyayev discovered something that Western science attempted to dismiss because it dismantled established frameworks. They found that the genetic code follows the same grammatical, syntactic, and semantic rules as human language. Your DNA is not only a chemistry manual, it is a language. Living DNA in living tissue reacts to radio and light waves when specific frequencies are applied, and specifically, it responds to modulated human language. Garjayev's team successfully repaired chromosomes damaged by radiation simply by using vibrations and linguistic frequencies. DNA operates as a biological antenna, receiving information from outside itself. That information arrives primarily from your voice, your words spoken with emotion and intention. DNA is a programmable biological system, and the input device is your mouth. You write the code. This explains why properly executed affirmations produce measurable results. This explains spontaneous healings through prayer and ancient mantras. It is not psychological placebo. It is molecular restructuring through linguistic resonance. Your genes are not your fixed fate. They are a dynamic manuscript that you edit every time you open your mouth. You may be familiar with Dr. Masaru Emoto's experiments with water crystals. Emoto exposed water to words like love and gratitude. When frozen, that water formed beautiful, symmetrical crystalline structures. He exposed water to words like, I despise you, and you make me sick. The frozen structures were broken, malformed, resembling the formations found in heavily polluted water sources. Your body is primarily water. Consider what you do to your blood and your organs when you look in the mirror and say, I am worthless. I am a failure. I will never change. You are converting your internal water into a toxic environment. You are literally deforming your crystal architecture. There exists a simple home experiment that thousands of people around the world have replicated. Take 2 sterilized glass containers. Place cooked, moist rice in both. Label one container love and the other hate. Every day for 30 days, speak to the love container with warmth and genuine care. Every day, direct anger and contempt at the hate container. The result is consistent worldwide. The love rice ferments naturally and smells pleasant. The hate rice rots, darkens, and develops mold rapidly. It is identical rice in an identical environment. The only variable is acoustic intention. If your words can rot rice in a jar, consider what they do to the cells of your body, to your relationships, to your financial reality. The word abracadabra, which we dismiss as childish theater, originates from an ancient Aramaic phrase. Its literal translation is, I create as I speak. The ancients understood that speaking is the act of collapsing the wave of possibility into a particle of reality. Here we must distinguish between 2 modes of language, descriptive and generative. Most people use descriptive language. They observe reality and narrate it. I am broke. I am unwell. The world is deteriorating. By doing this, they perpetuate that reality. The vibration of their words solidifies the current situation. Conscious creators use generative language. They do not describe what they see, they declare what they choose to see. They speak what is not yet present so that it may become present. If you wait to see something in order to speak of it, you are anchored in the past. If you speak in order to see it, you are creating the future. Of all the sounds the human voice can produce, 2 words carry nuclear-level power. The phrase, I am. Whatever you place after I am becomes your creative command. If you say, I am incapable, the universe organizes your nervous system accordingly. If you say, I am prosperous, I am in perfect health. I am a channel of abundant energy. Your cellular matter begins obeying that decree. Your logical mind will initially protest. It does not matter. The sand on the metal plate does not believe in the sound. It simply obeys. Your matter will comply with your decree if you hold it with consistency and genuine emotional charge. In music, silence is as essential as the note itself. In the law of vibration, Silence is where the power for the word accumulates. If you speak continuously, nonsense, gossip, complaint, you dissipate your creative capacity. Learn to silence what does not build. The ancient initiates practiced extended periods of silence precisely to charge their creative battery. When someone who has cultivated silence finally speaks, their words carry genuine weight. Reality responds to them. Lying creates a destructive interference pattern within your field. When you construct a false narrative with your words, you create internal friction between what you speak and what exists. This fractures your energetic coherence. A person who habitually lies becomes energetically depleted. Truth, even when it is difficult to deliver, calibrates extraordinarily high, above 500. And here is what matters for your manifestation practice. If you lie to others, your subconscious learns that your words carry no genuine weight. Then, when you attempt powerful affirmations of abundance and health, your subconscious responds with quiet dismissal. To make your spoken decrees function with full power, you must be a person of absolute integrity with your word. Every morning, establish a sonic practice. In solitude, your car, your shower, anywhere private, spend 2 minutes decreeing your reality aloud. Do not whisper. Project from your chest. Vibrate your sternum. Say, I am the creative force of my own life. Today, I activate the frequency of extraordinary results. My cells respond to my voice and align with perfect vitality. I accept and receive all the abundance that is my natural inheritance. Feel the physical vibration in your throat. You are tuning your instrument before walking into the concert of existence. Stop using your voice to narrate your difficulties. Stop using your voice to criticize others. That is sonic energy that passes through your own mouth before reaching anyone else, poisoning you first. Use your voice to build. Use your voice to bless. Your world is waiting. If it is not more beautiful than silence, do not say it. Now, before we enter the next section, pause and feel into this. The number 528 is not arbitrary. It is recognized in frequency research as a restoration tone, the frequency associated with DNA repair and transformation. Ancient traditions embedded specific numeric patterns into their sacred practices for precise vibratory reasons. If you feel called to explore what number resonates in your body right now, write it in the comments below this audio. What number is speaking to you? Law 3. The principle of entrainment. Why you inevitably come to resemble your environment. In the year 1665, the Dutch physicist and mathematician Christian Huygens, inventor of the pendulum clock, made an accidental discovery that left him genuinely baffled. Huygens was confined to bed with illness, observing 2 of his pendulum clocks mounted on the same wall. He noticed that regardless of how he initially started them, after a period of time, the pendulums of both clocks began swinging in perfect synchrony, though in opposite directions. If he stopped one and restarted it out of phase, within minutes or hours they would return to mathematical synchronization. No wires connected them, no magnets. What was occurring? Huygens had discovered the physical phenomenon known as entrainment, also called synchronization or phase locking. He found that pulsating energy travels through the medium connecting two oscillators, and they interact until arriving at a shared rhythm that consumes the minimum possible energy. Welcome to the law of entrainment. This universal law dictates that rhythmic systems existing in proximity tend to synchronize to the same frequency. We observe this pattern everywhere in nature. Fireflies in a forest begin flashing at random intervals and within time synchronize into a single unified pulse, thousands of them lighting simultaneously. Women who share living quarters synchronize their biological cycles. Metronomes placed on the same surface align themselves. The pacemaker cells of the heart fire in coordinated unison. But here is the dimension that directly affects your life. You are a biological oscillator. Your heart pulses. Your brain generates waves, alpha, beta, theta. Your breathing follows a rhythm. Your atoms vibrate. Therefore, by pure physical law, you are subject to the principle of entrainment at all times. You are not an island of independent energy. You are a tuning fork in a room full of other tuning forks. If you enter a low vibration environment, your biology will attempt to synchronize with that environment. If you surround yourself with individuals who are unwell, financially restricted, and persistently complaining, your vibration will descend until it matches theirs. If you place yourself among people who are vital, expanding, and genuinely prosperous, your vibration will rise to reach them. In a direct contest between your individual willpower and the physics of your environment, the environment wins nearly every time. Have you ever entered a room where two people had just finished a heated argument, and even in complete silence, you could feel the tension as a physical presence in the air? Or sat beside someone on public transport, and without any words exchanged, suddenly felt inexplicably drained or melancholy? That is not imagination. That is entrainment. Your electromagnetic field, which extends several meters beyond your physical body, is interacting with the other person's field. Most people lack sufficient energetic stability to maintain their own frequency against a dominant contrary signal. They are passive recipients, constantly being pulled by whatever vibration dominates the immediate environment. This explains what is commonly called energy drain. It is not that anyone is stealing from you with malicious intent. It is that by the law of energetic entropy, energy flows from a higher concentration toward a lower one. If you spend 8 hours daily in an environment where people fundamentally resent their work and their lives, it is physically impossible to depart from that space vibrating with the energy you wish to carry. Your biology will have synchronized with the collective frequency of frustration. Neuroscience discovered mirror neurons in the 1990s. These cells in your brain activate both when you execute an action and when you witness another person executing it. If you observe someone weeping, your mirror neurons simulate the weeping within your own neural architecture. you experience an echo of their grief. If you witness someone achieve a breakthrough, you feel a resonance of their victory. Your brain is continuously rehearsing and absorbing the behaviors and frequencies of those surrounding you. This is not weakness. It was a survival mechanism. But today, it can become your limitation. Jim Rohn stated that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. We now understand this is not merely motivational rhetoric. It is a neurological and vibratory fact. Your income gravitates toward the average of your 5 closest associations. Your physical health trends toward that average. Your emotional baseline does the same. Entrainment ensures you do not deviate excessively from the frequency of your immediate tribe. However, and this is the clause that changes everything, the strongest and most coherent frequency tends to entrain the weaker ones. In Huygens' original observation, the larger clock established the rhythm. In a group of people, the individual with the most intense and stable conviction sets the tone. This explains genuine charisma. A leader vibrating with absolute certainty in their convictions draws others toward that frequency simply through presence. When you were near such people, you felt braver, more capable. This brings us to a critical question. Are you operating as a thermometer or a thermostat? The thermometer measures and reflects the temperature of its environment. It is a reactive instrument, a victim of circumstance. The thermostat sets the temperature. It is a generative instrument, a creator of conditions. To master this law, you must train yourself to function as the thermostat. You must cultivate a signal so consistent and strong that your presence begins reorganizing the energy around you rather than the reverse. To accelerate your vibratory evolution, change your environment deliberately. You cannot recover in the same environment where the depletion occurred. Objects and spaces retain energetic memory. If you have lived for years in a space where conflict was the constant backdrop, that frequency has become embedded in the walls and furnishings like a recording that plays on repeat. Physical clutter emits a frequency of stagnation and chaos. It is genuinely impossible to maintain mental clarity and elevated vibration in a disordered, dark environment. Make space. Release everything you no longer use, no longer love, or that exists in a state of disrepair. The possessions of your previous self carry the vibration of who you were. If you are committed to becoming a new version of yourself, you cannot reside in a museum dedicated to your past. Clean your windows. Restore what is broken. Transform your living environment into a high-frequency recharging station. Sound your space with coherent music at frequencies of 432 or 528 Hz. Let your environment serve your evolution rather than anchor it. Your most influential environment today is not your physical space. It is the screen you carry in your pocket. Social media platforms are sophisticated entrainment machines. Their algorithms are engineered to capture attention through low-vibration emotional states: outrage, comparison, anxiety, manufactured desire. If you spend 30 minutes consuming tragic news, conflict, and aspirational imagery designed to generate inadequacy, your brain enters resonance with those frequencies. You calibrate toward anxiety and lack. You feel depleted without understanding why. You must exercise absolute discernment with your digital intake. Stop following accounts that generate feelings of insufficiency. Unsubscribe from outrage. Follow only teachers, creators, and thinkers who genuinely elevate your frequency. Transform your feed into a curated vision of the life you are building. The principle of entrainment will work on your behalf through your screen just as readily as it works against you through it. Napoleon Hill spoke of the mastermind concept, the idea that when two or more minds join in genuine harmony toward a shared purpose, a third, invisible mind emerges that is more powerful than the sum of its contributors. In physics, this is called constructive interference. When two waves meet in phase, their amplitudes do not simply add, they multiply. The resulting wave is exponentially more powerful. This is why the wealthy associate with the wealthy, why elite athletes train among champions. Proximity is power, and that power operates through physical law. If you are the most energetically advanced person in your immediate circle, your growth will plateau. You require environments where you are genuinely the smaller frequency, where the room's vibration draws you upward rather than holding you in place. Now we arrive at the uncomfortable dimension of this law. You must honestly evaluate your 5 closest associations. Consider each one. Do they speak of possibilities and growth? Or do they circulate complaints and gossip? Do they energize you or deplete you? If your assessment reveals a low-frequency environment, you have 3 options. Attempt to elevate those around you, which rarely succeeds and consistently exhausts the one attempting it. Deliberately reduce your exposure and establish firm energetic boundaries, or release the relationship entirely. Sometimes ascending to your next level requires leaving behind what was comfortable at your previous one. This is not cruelty. It is energetic survival. And understand this: by removing yourself from an entraining low-frequency connection, you may provide exactly the disruption that initiates the other person's own awakening. The law of the vacuum, which we will examine in detail, guarantees that when you create space by releasing low-frequency connections, that space will be filled. The universe moves immediately to match your new signal with people and circumstances that resonate with your elevated frequency. If you cannot currently exit a low-frequency environment, perhaps it is your workplace or your family structure, you must strengthen your own signal sufficiently to avoid being dragged. Practice what might be called the detached observer. When someone arrives carrying drama or anger, observe from the shore rather than entering the water with them. Mentally note how fascinating this reaction is. By withholding your emotional hook, you refuse to connect your frequency to theirs. The interaction passes through you rather than altering you. You can also practice what some traditions describe as a field of protective intention. Before entering a dense environment, take a moment to stabilize your own frequency consciously. Breathe deliberately. Feel your own center. Carry that coherence into the space rather than surrendering your frequency before you arrive. And when everything feels chaotic and misaligned, when no human environment offers refuge, remember that the Earth itself is an entrainment field of extraordinary power. The Schumann resonance, the electromagnetic frequency of the planet, sits at approximately 7.83 Hertz, which corresponds closely to theta brainwave states associated with healing, creativity, and intuitive reception. Modern existence, screens, concrete, electromagnetic interference, disconnects us from this ground frequency. Walking in a forest, sitting by water, placing your bare feet on the earth. These are not merely pleasant activities. They are acts of biological recalibration. Nature vibrates in perfect coherence. Trees carry no ego. The ocean is unhurried. Your body recognizes that primal frequency and synchronizes with it. Your heart rate drops, stress chemistry dissolves, mental clarity returns. When you have no human ally to turn to a tree. Let the planet's immense and patient field recalibrate your small, distorted one. Law 4. The memory of water and vibrational nutrition. You are what you absorb. Look at your hand. Touch your arm. You appear solid, a stable structure of flesh, bone, and skin. This is a perceptual illusion. The biological reality is that you are essentially a mobile aquarium, a membrane of skin containing a living ocean. In volumetric terms, you are approximately 70% water. In molecular terms, the figure is even more striking. 99% of the molecules in your body are water molecules. Your proteins, hormones, DNA, and neural tissue are a small minority of solutes suspended in an immense internal sea. If the law of vibration tells us that everything is energy and motion, and you are almost entirely water, then the most critical question you can ask is not how much protein am I consuming? It is what information is recorded in my water. For centuries, materialistic science treated water as an inert substance, a simple solvent for transporting compounds from one location to another. We now understand, through the frontier of quantum biology, that water is not inert. Water is a liquid crystal. Water is a biological storage medium. Water possesses the capacity to record, retain, and transmit electromagnetic information. And since you are water, you are a living archive. Dr. Gerald Pollack at the University of Washington discovered that water exists in a fourth phase, beyond solid, liquid, and gas. He called it EZ water, or exclusion zone water. Inside your cells, water does not exist as disorganized tap water. It organizes itself into perfect hexagonal structures analogous to a honeycomb. This structured water functions as a battery, storing a negative electrical charge. Your vitality depends directly on how structured your internal water is. When you are healthy and vibrating with elevation, your water is crystalline and ordered. When you are ill or chronically depleted, your water loses its structure. It becomes chaotic and loses its capacity to hold energetic charge. The French virologist Luc Montagnier Nobel Prize recipient for discovering the HIV virus, conducted an experiment that conventional science moved quickly to suppress because it violated foundational assumptions. He placed bacterial DNA in a water solution, then diluted it until not a single physical molecule of DNA remained. Only water was left. He placed that tube of pure water beside another tube of fresh water, separated but connected through a gentle electromagnetic field of 7 Hertz. After several hours, he analyzed the second tube. The water had formed bacterial DNA from nothing visible. The water had transmitted or teleported the genetic information. Montagnier's conclusion? Water retains the electromagnetic imprint, the vibratory signature of what has existed within it. Even after the physical substance is gone entirely, the vibration remains recorded in the water's structure. What does this signify for you? It means the water in your body remembers. It remembers the emotional trauma from a decade ago. It remembers words spoken to you with contempt. It remembers yesterday's sustained stress. These experiences were not simply processed and released. They were imprinted on the crystalline structure of your cellular water and continue to vibrate there, creating patterns of dissonance that manifest as chronic conditions and persistent emotional blocks. When you say, "I feel it in my gut," or "I have a strong intuition about this," you are describing your water responding to an external frequency. You are a vast liquid reception antenna. The protocol for conscious hydration begins with recognizing that most people drink energetically depleted water. Tap water has been treated with chlorine, has traveled through right-angle pipes that fracture its natural vortex structure, and has sat stagnant in plastic containers under artificial light. That water is, vibrationally speaking, in a dormant state. It diminishes rather than amplifies your energy. Before drinking any water, hold the glass with both hands. Direct your attention toward it. Project a genuine emotion of gratitude, which calibrates at approximately 540 on the Hawkins scale. Speak to it, silently or aloud, with words of health and vitality. By doing this, you are restructuring the water molecules toward coherence. When you drink that intentionally prepared water, you are consuming healing information. You are flooding your cells with high-frequency programming. This is not mystical theater. It is information transfer. Regarding food, the German biophysicist Fritz Albert Popp discovered that all living cells emit a faint light called biophotons. The health of an organism depends on its capacity to store and emit this coherent light. When you eat a fresh apple, you are not merely consuming fiber and natural sugars. You are consuming the sunlight that the apple stored and concentrated over months. You are eating organized information, structured energy. High vibration foods, fresh fruit, raw vegetables, seeds, spring water, carry rich biophoton content. They bring order into your biology. Processed foods, items exposed to microwave radiation, refined sugars, chemical preservatives, these have lost their light. Their molecular architecture is fractured. To metabolize them, your body must expend its own energetic reserves. They draw from your frequency rather than contributing to it. The digestive process itself is alchemical. You take something that is not you, a carrot, a handful of seeds, and transform it into cellular tissue that is you. This transformation depends significantly on your vibratory state while eating. If you consume the most carefully selected organic food while simultaneously engaged in conflict or consuming distressing content, you convert that food into a low-frequency experience. Your emotional chemistry alters your digestive chemistry. Stress physically constricts the digestive system and creates conditions for fermentation rather than assimilation. Never eat in a state of genuine anger, grief, or acute stress. It is energetically preferable to fast until equilibrium returns. And when you do eat, bless your food. This is not merely religious ceremony. It is an act of quantum physics. By directing intentional gratitude toward your food, you are restructuring the water within it and elevating its frequency to align with your own. You are choosing what information to absorb. Fasting deserves recognition as a vibratory practice rather than merely a dietary one. The human body allocates between 60 and 70% of its total energy budget to the digestive process. If you are eating continuously, your body never has free resources for deep repair or elevated perception. All great contemplative traditions incorporated periods of fasting, not as punishment, but as a technology for clarity. When you stop consuming solid food, autophagy activates. Your body systematically identifies and eliminates damaged, aging, and dysfunctional cells. Mental clarity sharpens dramatically as blood that was serving digestion returns to the brain. And vibrationally, you become lighter. Your receptive capacity sharpens. You begin perceiving subtle energies that were previously masked by the density of constant digestion. There are also specific substances that artificially suppress your vibratory frequency. Alcohol is one of the most effective frequency inhibitors available. The word alcohol derives from the Arabic al-kul, meaning a body-consuming spirit, a name that understood something important about its mechanism. Refined sugar generates systemic inflammation. Inflammation is biological chaos, disorganized fire within the body. Heavy metals, including mercury, aluminum, and lead, function as chaotic signal receptors within your tissues. If you wish to operate at elevated frequency consistently, detoxification is not optional. It is the prerequisite for everything else. And understand that absorption is not limited to the mouth. You absorb through your skin and through your breathing. Natural fabrics, cotton, linen, wool, silk, allow your body's electrical current to flow freely. Linen, in particular, carries an extraordinarily high frequency and has been recognized in energy research as genuinely health-promoting. Synthetic fabrics are essentially plastic against your skin, disrupting your body's natural electrical communication. Your body is the most precise instrument of discernment you possess. Before consuming anything, food, media, a conversation, practice attending to your body's immediate response. Does this expand you or contract you? Does it generate a sensation of openness or constriction? The intelligence of your cells, when you learn to consult it, will guide you more accurately than any external dietary system. Law 5. The Law of Egregors. Collective thought fields and how to reclaim your sovereignty. Have you ever questioned why an otherwise measured and reasonable person, upon entering a stadium filled with collective intensity, can transform into a creature capable of irrational behavior? Why does a hospital carry a particular atmospheric weight that you feel the moment you enter, even in the absence of visible suffering? Why do specific ideas, social anxieties, and behavioral patterns seem to spread through populations simultaneously, as though guided by an invisible coordinating mind? This is not coincidence, and it extends beyond what conventional crowd psychology can fully explain. It is a real energetic structure. Welcome to the Law of Egregors. Until this point, we have examined your individual vibration, but you do not inhabit a vacuum. You are immersed in an ocean of collective vibratory output. When large numbers of people sustain the same thoughts, emotions, and desires, sufficient intensity, that energy does not dissipate. It clusters. It condenses. It develops a functional life of its own. It becomes an autonomous, energetic entity that floats above the group that created it. This entity sustains itself on the continued attention of its creators and, in return, exerts influence on their behavior. The ancient practitioners called this an egregor, from the Greek egregorian, meaning to watch over. The biologist Rupert Sheldrake calls it a morphic field. The quantum physicist Vadim Zeland calls it a pendulum. Whatever name you choose, the phenomenon is the same. There are clouds of collective thought that compete for your energy. If you cannot identify them and understand their mechanism, you are not the master of your mind. You are being thought by the egregor. How does an egregor form? Through shared repetition amplified by emotion. Two people begin expressing collective frustration about economic conditions. They create a small energetic disturbance. If 10,000 join, the cloud grows. If millions sustain it over years, the cloud becomes a self-sustaining storm with its own survival instinct. That entity is now an egregor with a single biological desire: to continue existing and to expand. And what does it require for survival? Your attention, your emotional reaction, your mental energy. Critically, the egregor does not distinguish between positive and negative reactions. It does not care whether you love it or despise it. It only requires that you do not ignore it. Hatred is nourishment of equal quality to devotion. As long as you direct your mental energy toward it, you are sustaining it and depleting yourself. Vadim Zeland uses the image of a pendulum. Imagine a large swing in continuous motion. For the swing to maintain momentum, it requires someone to push it. The pendulum, the egregor, provokes you so that you push it. It presents an outrage. It exposes an injustice. It insults what you value. If you respond with anger, "This is unacceptable. I will not tolerate this." You have just pushed the pendulum. You have transferred your energy to it. If you respond with fear, "This is catastrophic. We are in danger," you push it equally. If you respond with fervent adoration, you push it as well. The system is engineered to pull you from your center. Once it has your hook, you stop thinking independently. You begin broadcasting the egregor's signal. You feel the emotions the egregor requires. You become an energetic supplier. We exist in an era of enormous and perpetually hungry egregors. The media function as the priesthood of these structures. Examine the pattern of news consumption. Fear, outrage, crisis, pain, scandal, cycling continuously. The egregor of permanent crisis requires this feeding. If we collectively withdrew our attention for sufficient time, the egregor would starve. The structure sustaining the apparent reality of the crisis would begin to dissolve because collective energy is one of the primary forces that creates and maintains reality. How do you determine whether you are thinking your own thoughts or being thought by an egregor? The symptoms of vibratory infection include repetitive mental loops in which you conduct imaginary arguments with perceived enemies while attempting to rest or perform ordinary tasks. Those thoughts are not authentically yours. Abrupt emotional shifts that occur after contact with social media or news, generating fury or depression that has no direct personal cause. Sudden energy depletion following time spent in public gatherings. And a rigidity of perspective in which absolute certainty replaces nuanced evaluation. The absence of nuance is a signature characteristic of egregor occupation. The primary defense strategy is what Zealand calls pendulum failure. When the pendulum reaches for you and finds no emotional response, not suppressed reaction, but genuine disinterest, a failure of the pendulum occurs. It loses momentum. It moves toward someone else who is available to sustain its energy. Mother Teresa expressed this understanding with precision when she was asked about anti-war demonstrations. She said she would never attend an anti-war rally. If there were a pro-peace gathering, she would be present. This sounds identical, but vibrationally it is the opposite. The anti-war march operates in the frequency of conflict and anger. The pro-peace gathering operates in the frequency of love and constructive intention. To dissolve a negative egregor's influence in your life, you must apply the law of the vacuum to it. Withdraw your energy completely. Observe it with the same emotional neutrality you might bring to watching weather patterns. It is a phenomenon that exists. It has nothing to do with you. Benevolent indifference is your most formidable protection. When you cannot simply disengage, your employer is generating the energy, your family structure is sustaining it. Use a principle analogous to Aikido. Do not resist directly. Resistance creates a point of contact through which the pendulum can exert leverage. Accept and redirect. If an authority figure in your life arrives carrying significant charge and directs it at you, rather than contracting into defense or escalating into counterattack, move with the energy. You're right that this needs attention. Let us examine how to resolve it. By meeting the energy without resistance, you dissolve the hook. You take the momentum out of the attack. You then redirect toward solution. Maintain your internal vibration in neutrality, approximately 250 on the scale, or, if you can access it, in the observer state. Do not identify with the attack. The attack is not directed at the real you. The egregor of stress is using a temporarily occupied person to attempt feeding itself. If you can see it this way, you may find genuine compassion arising naturally. That compassion instantly elevates you to 500, and at 500, you are functionally untouchable. And remember, humor is lethal to negative egregors. Fear and anger are dense, heavy, slow-moving frequencies. Genuine laughter moves at an entirely different order of speed and lightness. When you find the genuine absurdity in a threatening situation and laugh, not as performance but as authentic recognition, you sever the pendulum's connection to your energy field. You cannot simultaneously be seized by fear and laugh with genuine freedom. Humor restores sovereignty. It is the most underestimated vibratory tool available to you. The deeper invitation of this law is to reclaim your attention as the most precious resource you possess. Your attention is the currency of creation. Egregors are the entities competing for that currency. Withdraw from the competition. Invest your creative attention exclusively in what you are genuinely building, your relationships, your contribution, your expanding frequency. And consider this. What number feels alive to you right now in this exploration? Many in our Elite Success Audiobooks community find themselves drawn to the number 111 at moments of genuine awakening, the signal of a new cycle beginning. If that resonates, let us know in the comments. What number is your field responding to? Law 6. The transmutation of sexual energy, the nuclear fuel of conscious creation. Of all the energy sources available to a human being, nutrition, oxygen, sunlight, rest, one stands above all others in raw power, intensity, and creative potential. It is an energy so volatile that when mismanaged, it has dismantled lives, collapsed empires, and driven individuals to states of genuine psychological breakdown. But when consciously directed, it functions as the nuclear fuel of genius. We are speaking of sexual energy. Modern culture, obsessed with instant consumption, has trivialized sexuality. It has converted the act into entertainment, an anti-anxiety mechanism for stress reduction, or a digital commodity designed to generate cheap neurochemical reward. In doing this, humanity has discarded its most extraordinary instrument of manifestation, the force capable of generating new life, reduced to a mechanism for momentary discharge. Welcome to the law of sexual transmutation. This law establishes that sexual energy is not exclusively for physical reproduction. It can be consciously alchemized, converted into creative output, financial generation, physical vitality, and personal magnetism. Nikola Tesla, Leonardo da Vinci, Napoleon Hill, Mahatma Gandhi. These were not celibate by religious morality. They were energetic investors. They recognized that this energy was concentrated creative potential and refused to dissipate it on transient pleasures when they could direct it toward illuminating the world. To understand this law, you must first redefine what sexual desire actually is. At the most basic biological level, it is an impulse for species continuation. At the energetic level, sexual energy is pure vital force. In Taoist tradition, it is called Jing, the creative essence of the universe. It is the energy of creation itself. Consider this carefully. It is the only energy with the proven capacity to generate a new human being, to produce eyes, a brain, a heart, a complete consciousness. Do you imagine that an energy capable of creating a new life is something ordinary? It is the most concentrated power you have access to. When you feel sexual desire, you are feeling the creative impulse of the universe presenting itself through your physiology. Nature provides that energy so you can create life biologically. But as a conscious being, you can redirect that same force. You can take that energy and instead of creating a biological child, use it to create what might be called a mental offspring. A completed creative work, a thriving business, a mastered skill, a transformed version of yourself. Napoleon Hill examined the most accomplished individuals in America over 20 years and identified an undeniable pattern. The most successful people were invariably those with highly developed vital natures, high creative force. And those who reached extraordinary achievement almost never did so before their 40s or 50s. Why? Because between 20 and 40, most individuals disperse this energy through uncontrolled pursuit of pleasure. They continuously drain their creative battery. Only when they develop sufficient maturity to conserve and redirect that impulse toward their purpose do they genuinely accelerate. Hill wrote that the desire for creative expression is far and away the most powerful of all human drives. When energized by this drive, individuals develop clarity of imagination, genuine courage, persistence, and creative capacity unknown to them at other times. If you can capture the precise internal state you inhabit when you feel intense desire, that sensation of being invincible, energized, ready for anything, and apply that exact quality of aliveness to your work and your purpose, you become unstoppable. In Taoist and traditional Chinese medical traditions, it is taught that seminal fluid is a substance distilled from the blood and the neural tissues. It contains an enormous electromagnetic charge along with concentrated vital minerals. When this energy is expelled repeatedly through unconscious habit, the documented result is fatigue, motivational flatness, cognitive fog, social withdrawal, and a reduction in personal magnetism. The individual becomes muted. Their signal weakens. For women, while the physiological mechanism differs, the equivalent occurs through indiscriminate energetic opening, through absorbing the psychic and emotional frequency of partners who vibrate at lower levels. The creative force, which traditions call Shakti, becomes dispersed outward through the constant seeking of romantic validation rather than being channeled into personal power and contribution. The greatest contemporary obstacle to this law is not physical sexuality. It is artificial stimulation, specifically pornography. From a vibratory perspective, its effects are devastating across multiple dimensions. It calibrates at the level of animal desire, approximately 125, and frequently descends into frequencies of degradation. Sustained consumption trains the brain's reward circuitry to require increasingly intense stimulation to register satisfaction, making authentic life, authentic goals, and authentic relationships feel insufficiently stimulating by comparison. Most critically, it triggers the mechanism that tells your brain the biological mission has been accomplished, after which ambition, the drive to go out and create in the world, diminishes. The conquest impulse is satisfied with no actual conquest having occurred. To activate the full power of this law, that leak must be sealed before attempting to accumulate energy. A tank with a compromised seal cannot hold pressure regardless of how much you pour into it. Transmutation is not repression. Repression is energetically dangerous. A sealed pressure vessel without a relief valve will eventually rupture catastrophically. Transmutation is redirection. It is installing a pipe on the vessel so that the pressure drives a turbine rather than building toward explosion. The process involves 3 stages. First, conservation. You must cultivate the capacity to sit comfortably with unresolved tension. When the desire arises, you do not immediately move to discharge it. You learn to be present with the energy rather than reflexively releasing it. This period of conservation allows the potential to accumulate. Second, circulation. Sexual energy generates in the lower body. If it remains localized there without circulation, it becomes overwhelming and drives unconscious behavior. You must learn to move it. Practices involving deliberate breathing, combined with a visualization of pulling the energy upward along the spine, through the vertebrae, toward the crown, redistribute the voltage. When the energy reaches the higher centers, particularly the heart and the frontal cortex, it does not feel like suppressed desire. It feels like elevated aliveness, enhanced clarity, and genuine creative inspiration. Third, investment. Once the energy has been distributed and you feel not genital urgency, but general vitality and heightened mental clarity, move immediately into your most important creative work. Write the material. Make the essential communication. Solve the complex problem. You will observe that your creativity is fluid, your stamina is extraordinary, and your thinking is operating at a level beyond your ordinary capacity. You are making what might be described as devoted love to your purpose. One of the most immediate rewards of practicing this law is the observable increase in personal magnetism. Charisma, at the vibratory level, is an excess of vital energy that emanates from a person whose creative force is not being continuously dispersed. Their eyes carry a quality of presence. Their voice carries natural authority and resonance. Their posture communicates genuine power without aggression. People are drawn to such individuals without being able to articulate why. That magnetic quality attracts not only human connection, but opportunities, resources, and circumstances that align with their purpose. This law carries a critical warning that must be clearly stated. Sexual energy is an amplifier of whatever already exists within you. If you conserve and circulate this energy, while your mental and emotional field is filled with hatred, resentment, or pathological ambition, you will amplify those distortions. You will become more powerfully destructive rather than more powerfully creative. This is why this law must always be preceded by the inner work of the earlier laws, particularly the elevation of your consciousness calibration and the clearing of your internal field. Before you raise the voltage, ensure the wiring is clean. 10,000 volts through compromised wiring generates fire, not power. You do not need to adopt a monastic existence to apply this law. You need only to become an intelligent steward of your most valuable resource. Treat your creative energy as you would treat any form of capital. You would not throw significant financial capital away randomly for momentary gratification. Apply the same intelligence to your vital force. When you choose to conserve this energy, you are not denying yourself pleasure. You are redirecting it toward the greatest pleasure available, the experience of creating something extraordinary from nothing, the irreplaceable feeling of operating at the full capacity of your nature. Law 7. The Law of Circulation. Prosperity as electrical current and the physics of giving. In the geography between northern and southern waters, there exist two bodies sustained by the same source. The first is vibrant, filled with life, fish, vegetation, movement. The second is called the Dead Sea, not as metaphor, but as accurate description. No fish survive its waters. Despite being fed by an identical source with identical water, one supports abundant life and the other supports none. The difference is not in the quality of the input. It is in the structure of the flow. The first body receives water and releases it. It has both an inlet and an outlet. Water moves through it. The second receives water and retains every drop. Its governing principle is everything for me, nothing outward. And paradoxically, by trying to retain everything, it has converted itself into a sterile cemetery. By holding the water, it corrupts it. This geographical reality illustrates the law of circulation with perfect precision. Energy only sustains power while it moves. When it stops moving, it transforms into stagnation and eventually into something harmful. Most people relate to money the way the Dead Sea relates to water. They are consumed by the desire to maximize the inlet, to earn, acquire, accumulate, while simultaneously living in terror of the outlet. They contract around every expense, and they cannot comprehend why, despite genuine effort, the flow of prosperity seems to dry up rather than increase. What they have not understood is that money is not an object to be accumulated. It is a current to be channeled. The language itself reveals the truth. The English word currency, money in circulation, derives from the Latin currere, meaning to run, to flow. It shares its root with a river current and an electrical current. Money has no intrinsic value in isolation. A banknote is paper and ink. Stranded on a remote island, it cannot sustain you in any way. The value of money exists only in its movement, in the exchange. It is relational energy. Picture money as electricity and yourself as a light source. For the light to illuminate, for abundance to manifest, electricity must enter through one connection and exit through another. If you sever the exit because you want to retain all the electrons, the current stops. The light goes out. You cannot accumulate electricity in a wire. It must flow continuously to generate power. The same principle governs your financial experience. When you block the outflow through fear or contracted thinking, you block the inflow simultaneously. The circuit is broken. The current stops. Examine this biologically. Receiving money is like breathing in. Spending and giving money is like breathing out. If you decided that air was so precious you would inhale and hold it indefinitely, you would suffocate. You would become incapable of receiving fresh air precisely because you refused to release the old. You must exhale to create the space and biological drive for the next inhalation. This is the condition in which many people experience their financial lives. A kind of breath-holding that creates sustained tension around every outflow. Every bill paid becomes a minor grief. Every investment, every tip, every gift generates an anxious contraction. That tension is broadcasting a signal into the quantum field. There is not enough. This is scarce. I must grip what I have. The universe, which is a mirror of your vibration, confirms. I will demonstrate the truth of that. And it does. The law of circulation requires that you develop the capacity to release money, to pay, to give, to invest, with the same quality of ease and even joy with which you welcome its arrival. The flow must be rhythmic, generous, and free of the anxiety of loss. There is a significant difference between what might be called intelligent conservation and what is actually scarcity vibration disguised as financial responsibility. Genuine financial planning arises from clarity and purposeful intention. It calibrates at approximately 310 on the Hawkins scale. Contraction around expenditure that arises from deep fear, that operates at 100. When you habitually seek to extract maximum value while offering minimum exchange, when you systematically undervalue the service of others, when you find yourself reluctant to pay full price for genuine quality, you are not being financially wise. You are broadcasting poverty, and the universe is listening. What you do to others energetically, you do to yourself. If you consistently signal to the field that others do not deserve to be fully compensated, your own compensation will reflect that exact signal. Transform your relationship with bills. A bill is not a punishment. It is a receipt of blessings already received. The electricity bill is documentation that you had warmth, light, and connection for 30 days. The rent or mortgage is an acknowledgement of shelter provided. When you pay these, do so with a deliberate quality of gratitude. Imagine your money as seeds being released into fertile ground. If you consume your seeds, retain them out of fear, you will never have a harvest. You must release them into the soil of circulation for them to multiply and return as abundance. John D. Rockefeller, the first individual in modern history to generate $1 billion in personal wealth, gave 10% of every dollar he received from his very first paycheck as a young man until the day he died. He consistently attributed his financial expansion to this practice, not as superstition, but as a law he understood. When you give freely before you feel you have enough to give, you communicate to your subconscious and to the quantum field that you are already operating from sufficiency. You are demonstrating, not merely declaring, that you are bigger than your financial fear. That demonstration carries enormous vibratory power. The return from genuine giving does not necessarily arrive from the direction of your generosity. It arrives through the universe, often through channels entirely unexpected, from people and circumstances that have no apparent connection to your giving. The circuit that you complete through generosity creates a circulation pattern that the universe is compelled by its own laws to honor. The greatest blind spot in financial consciousness is this: you cannot attract what you energetically resent. If you observe someone in circumstances of obvious prosperity, and your inner response is envy or moral judgment, surely they must have obtained that through compromise or exploitation. You have just declared your own internal prohibition against prosperity. Your subconscious, dedicated to keeping you a person of integrity as you have defined it, will ensure you never accumulate what you have associated with being compromised. Every time you draw close to financial expansion, it will generate a subtle self-sabotage to protect you from becoming what you have judged. To activate the law of circulation, bless what you desire. When you encounter someone in obvious prosperity, allow yourself to feel genuine appreciation. How wonderful that this level of abundance exists and is available. If they have accessed it, its possibility exists in you, the field. The law of entrainment, Law 3, guarantees that by genuinely aligning with the vibration of another's success, you activate that frequency within your own field. Envy is a wall. Genuine appreciation for another's prosperity is a door. Money does not change who you are. It amplifies what you already are. A generous person with expanded financial resources becomes a large-scale philanthropist. A contracted, fearful person with expanded resources becomes a large-scale expression of contraction and fear. The volume increases, but the signal remains the same. This is why the inner work of the preceding laws is not preparatory. It is the actual prerequisite for sustainable prosperity. If you have not attended to your character, your calibration, your shadow, money arriving at significant volume will intensify whatever unresolved material exists within you. The voltage will exceed the quality of the wiring, and the circuit will burn. Do not seek money as the solution to your life. Resolve your life, your vibration, your consciousness, your authentic contribution, and money will come as the natural expansion of what you have become. Begin practicing what might be called the host orientation rather than the guest orientation. The guest waits to be served, monitors whether they are receiving their fair share, and operates from the anxiety of scarcity. The host ensures everyone has what they need, enjoys the act of providing, and operates from the internal experience of abundance, regardless of the quantity visibly present. Even with modest current resources, practice the host orientation. Be the one who treats for the coffee. Be the one who leaves the generous tip. Be the one who gives the unexpected gift. You are not performing generosity. You are training your nervous system to identify as the source rather than the recipient. And the source, by definition, is always full. Law 8. The integration of the shadow. Vibrating. High is not denying the darkness. It is alchemizing it. Imagine a beautiful home. The exterior is freshly painted. The garden is precisely maintained. Classical music fills the common rooms. The atmosphere radiates careful cultivation. Everything appears to be of high quality. But there is a problem. In the basement, sealed with multiple locks, there is a toxic accumulation. 30 years of discarded material, decay, structural damage, a decomposing presence. And the owner of this home has decided that the optimal strategy is to pretend the basement does not exist. They never descend. They use powerful fragrance throughout the upper rooms to mask what rises through the cracks. They maintain a consistent expression of well-being and say, "Here there is only light and love." What is the actual vibratory reality of this home? The real vibration is the average between the carefully maintained living areas and the decomposing basement. And worse, the owner is expending the majority of their vital energy ensuring that basement door remains sealed. Their hands are occupied with that effort. They cannot swim freely, cannot fully embrace anyone, cannot create uninhibited. Their available energy for genuine living, for creation, for love and healing is minimal because most of their capacity is committed to the defensive system. Welcome to the law of shadow integration. Within modern spiritual and personal development culture, there exists a genuinely dangerous epidemic. It has been called spiritual bypass or toxic positivity. We are consistently instructed to deny, override, and cancel the negative. The instruction is only good vibrations. This law arrives to deliver a harder truth. You cannot illuminate darkness by pretending it is not there. You illuminate it only by entering it with a source of light. Vibrating at an elevated frequency does not mean presenting as a person who never experiences anger, never inhabits fear, never has complicated or twisted thoughts. Vibrating at an elevated frequency means being a complete person, one who has acknowledged their full range, recognized and named their inner darkness, and learned to work with those energies rather than against them. Carl Jung stated this with surgical clarity. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And he added a functional warning: what you resist persists. What you accept with genuine presence transforms. When you were born, you were a complete sphere of energy, every quality present and acceptable. You cried, expressed hunger, made noise, required things without shame. Then the domestication process began. Your environment communicated through direct instruction and through social pressure. Do not show that. That is not acceptable. That is what bad people do. To receive love and remain safe within the group, you began taking the rejected parts of yourself and placing them into what Jung called the shadow, an invisible repository that you have been dragging alongside you since childhood. You placed your anger there, your sexuality, your vulnerability, your hunger for recognition, your strange creativity that did not fit the expected mold. The critical misunderstanding is that these energies do not die when they are rejected. They are vital force. Suppressed, they become autonomous and primitive. They begin operating without your conscious oversight. Repressed anger does not dissolve. It transforms into chronic resentment, psychosomatic physical conditions, or sudden explosive episodes that feel completely out of proportion to their apparent trigger. Repressed desire for power becomes passive-aggressive behavior. Repressed vulnerability becomes rigid defensiveness that prevents any genuine intimacy. The beach ball in the water is a precise analogy. Imagine maintaining a large, inflated ball beneath the surface of a pool. The ball is your shadow. The water is your subconscious. Keeping it submerged requires constant muscular effort. You tire. You cannot play. You cannot move freely. You cannot fully embrace anyone because your hands are perpetually occupied with suppression. And when you become exhausted or distracted, the ball erupts to the surface with a force proportional to how long and how hard you have been holding it down. But here is the mechanism that makes the shadow directly relevant to vibration and manifestation. The suppression itself is a frequency of resistance, and resistance generates friction. A person maintaining a large, unintegrated shadow is energetically depleted, not because of what they are doing, but because of what they are working so hard not to feel, not to express, not to acknowledge. The universe has provided a remarkably reliable detection system for shadow material. It is called projection. The law of the mirror states whatever generates a disproportionate, visceral reaction in you when you observe it in. Another person is reflecting something within yourself that you have not yet accepted. Think of someone whose behavior genuinely infuriates you. What is the specific quality that triggers you most intensely? Arrogance? Deception? Laziness? If the reaction is excessive, if it is not proportionate to any genuine harm being done to you, the intensity is a signal. That quality lives in your shadow. You despise visible arrogance because you carry repressed certainty of your own superiority that you deny yourself from expressing. You are outraged by laziness because you ruthlessly prohibit yourself from resting. The external person is a mirror, and the mirror is showing you exactly where your energy is frozen. This leads to one of the most important recognitions in this entire study. We do not only repress what we consider negative, we also repress our greatness. This is called the golden shadow. Many people grew up in environments where genuine shining was risky. It attracted envy, punishment, rejection. So they placed their brilliance, their leadership capacity, their authentic power into the shadow alongside the anger and the fear. They made themselves deliberately small to remain safe within the group. Today, when you encounter someone who is genuinely brilliant, powerfully expressive, and magnetically charismatic, do you feel inspired, or does something complex arise? Pure admiration mixed with an inexplicable ache is a sign of your golden shadow. You are seeing your own potential projected outward onto someone else, rather than owned as your own. Integrating the shadow does not mean becoming a person without light. It means daring to claim the full range of what you are, including the power, the brilliance, the creative force that you were told to contain. The emotional alchemy of integration begins with understanding that there are no inherently destructive emotions. There are only energies that are either conscious or unconscious, directed or misdirected. Every element within your shadow contains something valuable wrapped in a layer of unprocessed material. Anger, in its unintegrated form, is destructive. Integrated anger becomes passion, the capacity for clear boundaries, and the force behind genuine justice. Gandhi's extraordinary impact arose not from the absence of anger, but from anger fully integrated and deliberately directed. Fear, in its unintegrated form, is paralysis. Integrated, it becomes alertness, discernment, and healthy respect for genuine risk. Envy, unintegrated, is the desire to diminish another. Integrated, it becomes a precise map of your authentic desires. It shows you what you genuinely want to create. Do not eliminate the dragon. The dragon is your power. Learn to ride it. The practice for integration begins in stillness. When a strong emotion arises, jealousy, rage, anxiety, grief, resist the trained impulse to anesthetize it with entertainment or food. Instead, sit with it. Locate where it lives in your body. Give it a form in your imagination. Ask it directly, what are you here to protect me from? What message are you carrying? Listen without judgment to whatever arises. Anxiety will often reveal, I am protecting you from a repetition of something that felt life-threatening when you were very young. Rage will often reveal, your boundaries are being violated, and I need you to recognize that. The moment you genuinely receive the message, the emotional intensity transforms. It stops being an enemy and becomes what it always was, a messenger. An ancient Hawaiian practice called Ho'oponopono offers a remarkably effective tool for dissolving the energetic charge of projection and shadow material. It operates on the premise that everything appearing in your reality is resonating with something within you, and that therefore you are the appropriate point of transformation. When you encounter any person or situation generating a dissonant reaction, you direct 4 phrases toward the part of you that created that resonance. I am sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Not as manipulation of the external circumstance, but as genuine cleaning of the internal pattern. Users of this practice consistently report that external situations, including conflicts with other people, shift and resolve after the internal cleaning occurs. Because you removed the hook, the shared frequency dissolved. When you integrate your shadow, when you stop maintaining that locked basement and instead work to illuminate and transform what lives there, something remarkable occurs in your manifestation capacity. Before shadow integration, when you directed your intentions toward a goal, you were doing so with perhaps 10% of your total energy, the conscious portion. Your shadow, holding the complementary beliefs, I do not deserve this, this is dangerous for someone like me, who am I to have this, was broadcasting with 90%. The universe received the stronger signal and responded accordingly. After genuine integration, you direct your intentions with your entire being. Every part of you becomes aligned. The message arrives at the quantum field as a laser rather than as scattered light. And the universe responds to a laser. Now consider, what number has been following you lately? Appearing on receipts, timestamps, addresses, random moments when you glance at a clock. In quantum-aligned communities, the number 444 is recognized as a signal of energetic foundation, the indication that what you are building rests on solid ground. If that number has been appearing in your experience, it may be precisely the invitation to descend into the basement at last, not with dread, but with a lamp. Share in the comments what numbers have been showing up for you. You may find others in our community are receiving the same transmission. Law 9. Dopamine fasting and the practice of silence. Clearing the noise to amplify the signal. Imagine you possess the most sophisticated receiving equipment ever constructed. A precision-engineered antenna, state-of-the-art amplification systems, perfect transmission capacity. Your objective is to tune into the frequency of abundance, a broadcast carrying clarity, extraordinary ideas, and genuine peace. You activate the equipment, but instead of the signal you are seeking, only noise emerges. Chaotic static, interfering frequencies, deafening white noise. Is the equipment defective? No. Your equipment, your brain and your body, functions with extraordinary precision. The problem is the number of signals entering simultaneously. You are receiving the abundance signal, yes, but you are simultaneously receiving the crisis signal, the social comparison signal, the 10,000 stimuli from the devices in your environment, the fluctuating chemistry of your blood sugar, and the ambient frequency of collective anxiety. The result of mixing all those frequencies is not coherent signal. It is noise. And within that noise, the quiet transmission of your intuition, the voice that knows your actual path, becomes inaudible. Welcome to the law of dopamine fasting and silence. We exist in the most overstimulated era in human history. The amount of information, visual input, and chemical stimulation that reaches your brain in a single day exceeds what a human being living a century ago would encounter across a lifetime. This constant bombardment carries a devastating vibratory cost. It severs you from yourself. If you cannot inhabit silence, you cannot hear your own frequency. And if you cannot hear it, you cannot tune it. You cannot deliberately adjust what you cannot perceive. To understand why this matters at the neurological level, you must understand dopamine. Popular understanding holds that dopamine is the pleasure molecule. This is inaccurate. Dopamine is the molecule of desire, of anticipation, of more. Its evolutionary purpose was to compel you toward resources. When you saw edible fruit, dopamine rose to motivate the pursuit. When you obtained and consumed it, dopamine dropped, and other neurochemistry, serotonin, endorphins, produced genuine satisfaction. Modern technology has completely hijacked this system. Social platforms, video games, processed sugars, and algorithmically curated content function as superstimuli, engineered by behavioral scientists specifically to trigger artificially rapid and intense dopamine spikes. The notification arriving, the scroll revealing a new image, each generates a spike. The brain, observing itself being flooded at unprecedented levels, activates its protective homeostasis. It begins systematically shutting down dopamine receptor sites to prevent what it reads as toxicity. This is tolerance, the same phenomenon documented in every form of chemical dependence. The consequence, the ordinary experiences of genuine life, a conversation with someone who matters, progress on meaningful work, time in nature, the engagement with a genuinely challenging book, begin to feel flatly insufficient, terribly boring. Not because they are, but because your brain has recalibrated its threshold of stimulation to a level that only artificial superstimuli can reach. You have become dependent on manufactured intensity to feel anything recognizable as engagement. Vibrationally, this anchors you between the level of desire and anxiety, approximately 125, and apathy, approximately 50. You oscillate in a state of perpetual lack, continuously seeking the next external dose that will return you to baseline. An individual in this condition cannot be a master of vibration. They have no genuine sovereignty. They are subject to whatever external stimulus most effectively captures their attention. And this fragmentation directly destroys manifestation capacity. The law of vibration requires sustained coherence to bring something from the quantum field into physical reality. You must be able to hold a clear intention with genuine emotional charge long enough for the signal to register in the field. But if your attention is a monkey leaping continuously from platform to platform, your signal is an incoherent scribble. The universe receives something like, "I want to build something extraordinary. Look at this image, something frightening in the news. I am hungry. I want to build something extraordinary. Look at this." The signal is continuously interrupted. Interrupted energy has no creative power. To reclaim your capacity for genuine manifestation, you must first reclaim your attention. To reclaim your attention, you must undergo a deliberate detoxification. Dopamine fasting is not the elimination of joy. It is the opposite. It is the removal of the chemical interference that has been preventing you from feeling the authentic joy available in ordinary life. For a defined period, 24 hours is a meaningful beginning. You deliberately abstain from all artificial high-stimulation inputs. No screens of any kind, no curated audio, including this audiobook, no processed foods or refined sugars, no sexual stimulation, no social entertainment, no substances. What remains available? Movement in natural environments, stillness, writing by hand, looking at the sky, drinking water, being present with your own mind. The first several hours will feel genuinely difficult. Your nervous system will begin generating urgent signals: boredom, irritability, anxiety, a phantom reaching for devices that are not present. This discomfort is not a problem. It is the most important information available to you in this process. It is demonstrating the degree to which you have been chemically captured. It is the withdrawal symptom, and it is proof that the detoxification is working. If you remain present through this discomfort, and it does pass, something entirely different emerges on the other side. Colors become noticeably more vivid. Simple tastes become genuinely remarkable. Ideas begin arriving with a quality and a depth that is completely different from the recycled content of an overstimulated mind. You may feel a quality of peace you have not experienced in a very long time, one that does not require anything external to sustain it. You are well because you simply are, not because anything outside you has provided the experience. You have reset your neurological baseline. Your dopamine receptors have begun reopening. Ordinary life has become genuinely extraordinary again, and your vibration has moved, without effort, purely through removal of interference, from chronic anxiety toward genuine neutrality, and eventually into the quiet joy that spiritual traditions have pointed toward for centuries. We have treated boredom as a condition requiring immediate correction. We carry our devices into every transition, into elevators, waiting rooms, the moments between tasks, because we have made the intolerance of boredom into a reflex. But boredom is not a malfunction. Boredom is the threshold that separates consumption from creation. When the brain is no longer occupied with external stimulation, it activates what neuroscientists call the default mode network, a state of spontaneous internal processing in which disparate information integrates, unexpected connections form, and original insights emerge. This is where Einstein visualized, where Mozart received, where every genuine breakthrough in human history first appeared as a quiet internal recognition. If you are never bored, you will never have an original thought. You will only recirculate the thinking of whatever you have most recently consumed. Blaise Pascal, the mathematician and philosopher, wrote that all of humanity's difficulties arise from the inability to sit quietly, alone in a room. This was the 17th century. He would not recognize the 21st century's relationship to silence, because genuine silence has become nearly inaccessible for most people. And yet, everything you are seeking through the noise can only be found within the silence. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is a presence. It is a substance. Noise is distorted vibration. Silence is pure vibration, potential before it takes form. Every answer you have been searching for in external sources already exists within you. Your higher intelligence, whatever name resonates with you for that capacity, is transmitting continuously. But the signal is, by its nature, quiet. The noise of the modern world is a megaphone amplifying fear and desire at maximum volume. To hear the whisper, you must be willing to turn off the megaphone. When you practice silence consistently, your intuitive capacity sharpens noticeably. Intuition is non-local knowing. It receives information outside the normal boundaries of linear logic and time. When it says, "Do not sign that agreement," or "reach out to this person now," following it is typically the fastest route available. But to hear it clearly, you must lower the volume of everything else. Scientifically, periods of genuine stillness shift your brainwave activity from high beta, associated with stress and reactive survival, through alpha, associated with learning and creative receptivity, and into theta. Theta brainwaves are the signature of the hypnagogic state, the threshold between waking and sleep, where the subconscious becomes directly accessible. Thomas Edison famously worked with this state deliberately, sitting with metal balls in his hands so that as he drifted toward sleep and his hands relaxed, the falling balls would wake him in theta, allowing him to capture the insights that state made available. You cannot access theta while scrolling through content. You need genuine, sustained calm. For sustainable maintenance of this clarity, since you cannot live in perpetual fasting, establish a daily protocol. The first hour of your morning and the final hour before sleep are screen-free. These transitions between sleep and waking states are naturally closer to theta, and surrendering them to reactive input immediately orients your entire day or night in reaction rather than creation. Work in focused blocks of 90 minutes without internet access and with your devices in another room. You will consistently produce more in that focused 90 minutes than in 8 hours of distracted multitasking. When moving through the world, between locations, between tasks, resist the trained impulse to fill the transition with audio. Allow your brain the processing space it requires. Eat without screens. Fully inhabit the experience of nourishment. When you eliminate the noise from your aspirational landscape, something important occurs with your goals themselves. Many of the things you thought you urgently desired begin to dissolve. You discover they were not authentically yours. They were implanted through sustained exposure to advertising and social aspiration, through social comparison and manufactured desire. By returning to genuine silence, you make contact with your soul's actual desires, which may look entirely different from the goals you were chasing through the noise. The misalignment between your authentic desires and your socially programmed desires is itself a significant vibratory dissonance, and it is one of the primary reasons that achieving external goals so consistently fails to produce the lasting satisfaction that was promised. Pursuing authentic desire generates inexhaustible energy. Pursuing manufactured desire generates exhaustion and eventual collapse. Dopamine fasting is, among other things, a technology for discovering which is which. Law 10. The miracle frequency. Anticipatory gratitude and the collapse of time. We have arrived at the summit. We have mapped the territory of consciousness, cleared our biology of accumulated toxins, developed the capacity to regulate our minds, protected our energy from parasitic structures, learned to transmute our creative fire, integrated the hidden material in our shadow, and recovered genuine access to silence and intuition. Now you stand before the final threshold. Behind it, the linear relationship between cause and effect begins to bend. Improbable events occur with increasing regularity. Time becomes flexible. What is conventionally described as a miracle becomes the expected outcome of elevated frequency. Let us define what a miracle actually is. A miracle is not a suspension of physical laws. It is the operation of laws at a higher order than the ones conventional science has fully catalogued. More precisely, a miracle is an acceleration of the manifestation process. It is the collapse of time, the compression of the interval between the point of desire and the point of physical manifestation. What is the specific frequency that enables this quantum acceleration? What is the particular key that opens this threshold? It is an emotion you have experienced many times in your life. But you have almost certainly been using it in the wrong temporal direction. It is gratitude. Specifically, anticipatory gratitude. Not thank you for what arrived yesterday. Thank you for what I know is coming, even though it has not yet appeared in physical form. Welcome to Law 10, the miracle frequency. Most people are anchored in what might be called the Newtonian waiting trap. They believe, when I can see the money in my account, I will feel abundant. When my partner manifests, I will feel loved. When the healing is visible, I will feel gratitude. This approach seems logical from the perspective of rational thought, level 400 on the scale of consciousness. But it is completely non-functional from the perspective of quantum creation, level 500 and above. Why? Because this sequence reaffirms lack at the very moment you are hoping to attract abundance. The emotional signal being broadcast is, I do not have it, and the universe, which is a precise mirror, continues to reflect not having it. The loop sustains itself indefinitely. Law 10 inverts this equation entirely. Feeling creates seeing, not the reverse. Quantum physics tells us that all possibilities exist simultaneously in the quantum field as probability waves. There is a version of your life in which everything you genuinely desire has already manifested. There is simultaneously a version in which none of it has. All versions exist now, superimposed in the field like radio broadcasts in the air, present, awaiting reception. What collapses a probability wave into a specific physical particle is the act of observation. And in the quantum field, you do not observe with your eyes. You observe with your emotional state. Your feeling is the instrument of quantum observation. Here is why anticipatory gratitude functions as a creation technology. When do you naturally feel gratitude? When something you desired has already arrived. Therefore, for your subconscious, which does not operate in linear time, the felt experience of genuine gratitude is the biological signal that the desired event has already occurred. When you successfully generate in your heart the same quality of gratitude you would feel if your desired outcome were already physically present, your subconscious and your body begin generating the neurochemistry of that already arrived reality. In that moment, you are sending a signal to the quantum field. This has happened. And the universe, which does not operate in past-future linear time, but in the language of vibration, is compelled by the law of coherence to bring that experience into your present physical reality. Anticipatory gratitude is the magnet that draws the future into them. Present. Examine how one of history's most documented masters of vibration used this principle. When Jesus of Nazareth stood before the tomb where Lazarus had lain for 4 days, faced with the maximum possible degree of contrary physical evidence, what did he do? He did not petition. He did not hope. He did not ask if it might be possible. He gave thanks. Before any physical movement occurred, he expressed gratitude for the outcome as already accomplished. And then he called it forth. That sequence, gratitude before evidence, certainty before confirmation, is the architecture of the miracle frequency. It is the vibratory declaration that the spiritual reality has already been established, and physical reality has no option but to align with it. If you pray, in whatever form that word has meaning for you, by asking, "Please give me," you are broadcasting the signal of lack and uncertainty. If you pray by giving thanks, "Thank you, this is already mine in the realm from which physical reality emerges," you are broadcasting the signal of power and inevitability. The word appreciate carries a double meaning that is not accidental. To appreciate something means both to feel gratitude for it and to increase its value, as when a financial asset appreciates over time. What you genuinely appreciate expands in your experience. What you habitually criticize and diminish contracts and deteriorates. If you possess a vehicle that you consistently describe as inadequate, you are broadcasting a frequency that accelerates its deterioration and ensures you cannot generate the energy necessary to attract an improved situation. If you look at that same vehicle and genuinely feel, not perform, gratitude for the reliable transportation it provides, you are generating the frequency aligned with its natural successor. This is the principle that links gratitude to compounding. It is not poetic. It is a vibratory law. Gratitude applied to whatever you currently have expands it. Contempt applied to what you currently have contracts it further. The seed of more is hidden in genuine appreciation for what already exists. The HeartMath Institute has scientifically documented the mechanism through which this operates. The human heart generates an electromagnetic field of measurably greater power than the brain, approximately 5,000 times more powerful. The brain generates what might be understood as the electrical component of manifestation, clear, defined intention. The heart generates the magnetic component, the feeling, the emotional charge that attracts. For genuine manifestation to occur, both components must be engaged simultaneously and aligned. If you think I intend to be in perfect health while simultaneously feeling an underlying fear of illness, the magnetic signal of the heart, operating at 5,000 times the strength of the mental signal, wins decisively. Your dominant feeling is your dominant manifestation frequency. The miracle occurs when you achieve what is called heart coherence, clear intention in the mind, aligned with an elevated emotion in the heart simultaneously. In this state, the combined signal that enters the quantum field generates a standing wave pattern, a stable, coherent frequency that has documented effects on the molecular structure of surrounding matter. When your inner environment reaches this quality of coherence, the outer environment tends to reorganize in alignment with it. The improbable becomes probable. The coincidences accumulate beyond statistical explanation. The circumstance that seemed impossible appears through a sequence of events no logical analysis could have predicted. The daily practice for activating this law: begin in a state of genuine quiet, using everything from Law 9. Allow your body to settle and your mind to soften. Bring forward the clear image of what you are moving toward, not vague aspiration, but a specific, sensory-rich scene. See yourself inhabiting that reality. Then, and this is the essential step, reach for the feeling. Not the performance of gratitude, but the genuine internal experience of it. What would it feel like in your body to already be living this? Breathe into that feeling. Let it expand from your chest. Sustain it for as long as it remains genuine. Even a few minutes of authentic heart coherence is more powerful than hours of intellectual affirmation. Then release. Say internally or aloud, "It is complete. Thank you." And step into your day as the person who has already been given what they sought. Do not monitor for signs. Do not calculate timelines. Do not doubt between one moment of practice and the next. The anxiety of waiting, the watching for evidence, is itself a broadcast of doubt that partially neutralizes the signal. Release the need for specific evidence on a specific schedule. You have planted the seed. You have watered it with the appropriate emotional frequency. Now you trust the process to unfold in the way and timing that serves you most completely. Here is what practitioners of this law consistently report. At the moment genuine release occurs, when you truly no longer need the desired outcome in order to feel complete, it tends to appear. This is not paradox. It is physics. Desperate need creates a frequency of lack. Genuine trust and gratitude creates a frequency of sufficiency. And the universe delivers circumstances that match your frequency, not your requests. When you live in a sustained state of genuine gratitude, not as a technique you apply occasionally, but as your default orientation to existence, time collapses. The journey that would have required 10 years of force-based effort completes in a fraction of that time through frequency-based alignment. What others call extraordinary luck, you will understand as the natural consequence of a coherent signal meeting a responsive universe. And one final dimension of this law: gratitude as a practice during adversity. Anyone can experience gratitude when circumstances are visibly favorable. Vibratory mastery is demonstrated when you find something genuine to appreciate in the midst of what appears catastrophic. When the work arrangement that seemed essential dissolves, and you can find, not perform, but find genuine appreciation. Thank you, because something more aligned is being made possible. When a relationship ends and you can find, thank you, this has taught me something essential about my own nature. When physical difficulty arises and you can find, thank you, this is redirecting my attention towards something I have been overlooking. By offering genuine appreciation to the difficult circumstances, you perform the alchemical act that is the culmination of every law in this series. You take the apparent lead of pain and convert it in real time into the gold of expanded consciousness. The low frequency cannot sustain its influence over a person who genuinely thanks their difficulties, because that person uses every experience, including the painful ones, as material for elevation. You have now received all 10 laws. The scale of consciousness. Calibrate above 200. The cymatics of sound. Decree. Do not merely describe. The principle of entrainment. Protect and curate your environment with absolute intention. The memory of water. Tend your internal field with care. The law of egregors. Withdraw your energy from parasitic structures and invest it only in what you are genuinely building. Sexual transmutation. Direct your vital force toward your highest creative expression. The law of circulation. Give and receive with equal ease. The integration of shadow. Embrace your complete range, including the gold in the darkness. Dopamine fasting and silence. Clear the interference so your authentic signal can be heard. Anticipatory gratitude. Live in the emotional reality of what you are creating before it appears. When you genuinely apply these laws, not as occasional techniques, but as a new way of being, something fundamental shifts in how you move through the world. You stop struggling against life. You begin dancing with it. Circumstances that previously required enormous effort resolve with apparent ease. You enter a room and something in the atmosphere responds to your presence. You engage with a project and something begins moving that was previously static. You speak, and people receive what you offer. This is not magic. This is the result of becoming genuinely coherent, of having aligned your frequency with the underlying laws that govern how reality is generated. You have become a tuning fork. And unlike a thermometer, which passively reflects whatever temperature surrounds it, a tuning fork emits its own note continuously, regardless of the noise around it. The purity and consistency of its frequency is so clear that the surrounding air molecules reorganize themselves in response. Other instruments, brought near, begin to resonate with its note. Your purpose is not to fix the world. Your purpose is not to persuade anyone of anything. Your purpose is to hold the note, to maintain your frequency with such consistency and clarity that the reality around you has no choice but to reorganize itself in alignment with what you are emitting. When you encounter environments of stress, hold the frequency of calm. When you encounter environments of scarcity, hold the frequency of genuine abundance. When the noise attempts to reabsorb you, and it will attempt this regularly, return to silence. Return to your practice. Return to the note. A single individual operating at the level of love, 500 on the Hawkins scale, carries a counterbalancing effect on the collective field that extends far beyond what linear logic would suggest. Your inner work is not private. When you heal at this level, the healing extends through your lineage, through those who came before you and those who will come after. When you raise your frequency, you genuinely make it marginally easier for those in your vicinity to raise theirs, because you have contributed to the quality of the collective field. You are an acupuncturist of planetary consciousness. Wherever you are present, energy flows differently. Before we close, one final reflection. What number, across this entire journey, has arrived most consistently in your inner experience? Not a number you chose intellectually, but one that simply appeared, in the spaces between ideas, in the moments of genuine recognition. In the Elite Success Audiobooks community, we have observed that individuals undergoing genuine vibratory shifts often report the appearance of specific numerical sequences as a kind of internal validation. 11, 111, 1111, 777, 33, 528. Not as superstition, but as a pattern the coherent mind begins to notice when its signal clears. Share yours in the comments. You may find you are in resonance with others who are in the same transformation. You now hold the instruction manual for the only reality that is actually yours to create, your inner world, and therefore your outer one. You can no longer claim you did not know. Now you are responsible for your frequency. When your life generates circumstances that are not aligned with what you desire, you no longer look outward for the cause. You look inward and ask, what signal am I broadcasting that the universe is reflecting back to me? And you have everything you need to change that signal, immediately, deliberately, and permanently. Go out there. The world requires lighthouses, Not lighthouses that preach, but lighthouses that shine. Not ones that explain what light is, but ones that simply are it. Let your presence carry such genuine peace, such authentic power, such unmistakable coherence, that people around you find themselves wondering what you carry that they have not yet found. Your secret will be simple. You stopped playing the frequency of fear and began playing the frequency of creation. You stopped being the echo of what the world told you to be and became the signal of what you actually are. The universe is not somewhere outside you waiting to respond. The universe is within you, waiting to be recognized. You are the instrument. You are the musician. You are the prayer. And you are the answer. Tune your instrument. Breathe from your center. Feel the vibration in your hands, in your sternum, in your throat, and make it sound.